My parents tossed my 16-year-old sister out like garbage, called her dead weight, and gave me her room. I stayed quiet, but not because I agreed, because I was about to burn the house down. My parents kicked my 16-year-old sister Emma out with trash bags on her birthday so I could have her room. When I reached for her, they laughed and said, "She's dead weight." I said nothing, not because I agreed, but because I knew what I was about to do would shatter everything. Truth is, I hadn't always been silent. As kids, I used to wipe her tears and toss her in the air when she made the honor roll, but little by little, my parents rewrote what love looked like. They said kindness made me weak, that protecting Emma made me dangerous. And by the time I started believing them, she was already packing. They said it was a gift for her 16th birthday, but it wasn't hers, it was mine. I was 8 months pregnant and my parents decided Emma's bedroom would make a perfect nursery, so they packed up her life in trash bags and sent her away. I stood there, watching her try not to cry as she stuffed her things into plastic bins, and part of me, God help me, was relieved. Maybe she'd land somewhere soft. My boyfriend moved in soon after and we filled that room with pastel paint and cribs and lullabies. Labor came and went without trouble. For a while it felt like a dream. My mom cooked for me every night. My dad worked overtime. My partner rubbed my feet. But when my daughter turned 3 and bumped her head on the table, just like Emma once did, I ran to scoop her up. That's when my mother shoved me aside. "Let her cry," she said coldly. "She needs to toughen up." I froze. My arms trembled. I held my daughter and locked the door. Staring into her eyes, I saw Emma's. That small, wounded light. The one I let dim. The guilt hit me like a wave that wouldn't stop. I waited for my child to sleep, then fell apart in the bathroom, and through tears, I called the sister I hadn't spoken to since the night we broke her. "Emma," I whispered. "I'm sorry." But she picked up on the first ring. When I went home that night, I told my parents everything. I had imagined the conversation would be filled with relief, even gratitude. I expected them to be happy, to see that the family was fixing itself, that I was reconnecting with Emma. But I was wrong. Instead, they got mad, like really mad. My mom's voice cut through the air, dripping with condescension and passive aggression. "Lily, didn't we talk about this?" she asked, her tone sharp enough to slice through the silence. My gaze flickered to my dad, and I saw the tension in his face. His fist clenched on the table so hard his knuckles turned white. But this time, I wasn't scared. No, I wasn't frightened anymore. Emma is my sister. She's your daughter. And what the hell is wrong with you? All the guilt, all the confusion that had clouded my thoughts for years had suddenly shifted into pure, unbridled anger. I had no empathy left for them. No guilt that could silence me now. My mom's eyes widened in disbelief, then narrowed into bitter, venomous slits. "If Emma is so perfect, go live with her. See how far her softness gets you," she scoffed. It was like they were daring me to challenge them, daring me to prove that I was something more than their obedient puppet. The truth hit me harder than I ever expected. I had been the biggest fool in the world. "Okay," I said, a smile creeping onto my face that wasn't kind, wasn't sad, just detached. I walked upstairs to pack. I was ready to walk away and nothing they could say would stop me. The house felt like it was closing in on me, suffocating me with all the years of manipulation, of being made to feel small. In the next 2 hours, I was waiting for our aunt to pick me up. The house, this supposed family home, had never felt colder. And that's when the real nightmare began. The knock on the door the next morning wasn't from my parents. No, it was from CPS. My heart dropped into my stomach. I froze, standing in the hallway, feeling the cold rush of panic sweep over me. Someone had called in a complaint about my daughter being neglected. And I knew exactly who had made that call. The CPS worker introduced herself, all polite and professional, but my mind was racing. This couldn't be happening. I had just made the right decision. I had just removed myself and my daughter from that toxic environment, and now my parents were trying to take her away. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to hold it together, trying to keep my voice steady, but the words felt like they were catching in my throat. "We received a concerning report about the welfare of a child named Lily," she said, glancing down at her clipboard. "Are you her mother?" she asked. A simple question, but it felt like the weight of the world was pressing down on me as I nodded, feeling like I might throw up. "Yes, I'm her mother." "She's perfectly fine. We just moved here yesterday." My aunt, God bless her, stepped in, her arm around my shoulders, trying to calm me down, trying to be the voice of reason. "There must be some misunderstanding. Lily is an excellent mother, and we have plenty of space and resources here for both her and her daughter." But none of that mattered to the CPS worker. She still had to do her job, and it felt like I was caught in the middle of my worst nightmare. The CPS worker followed me into the guest room, where my daughter was sleeping. She was just waking up, rubbing her eyes and looking confused at the stranger in the doorway. My heart shattered as I quickly went to her side, pulling her into my arms, trying to protect her from the storm brewing outside. "Hey, sweetie, did you have a good sleep?" I asked, my voice shaky, but I had to keep it together. The CPS worker introduced herself to my daughter as Ms. Janine and asked if she could talk to her for a few minutes. I reluctantly stepped back, every instinct in my body screaming at me to grab my daughter and run. But I knew that wouldn't make things better. Janine asked my daughter some basic questions: if she was hungry, if she liked staying at her aunt's house, if she missed her old home. My daughter, being 3 and blissfully unaware of the tension in the room, happily babbled about wanting pancakes for breakfast and about the cat she'd seen in the window. I stood there, my arms crossed tight, trying not to crumble under the weight of what was happening. After what felt like an eternity, Janine asked to speak with me privately. Emma offered to make my daughter breakfast, and I followed the CPS worker to the living room, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. "Mrs. Collins, I'll be direct with you," Janine said once we were seated. "We received a report claiming you abruptly removed your daughter from her home environment, that you're emotionally unstable, and that this household isn't equipped to care for a child." I couldn't help it. I laughed. I had to. It was either laugh or cry. "Let me guess, my parents called you." Janine's expression remained neutral. "I can't disclose who made the report," she said, but her tone told me everything I needed to know. It was my parents. I knew it. "Look," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "I know how this looks, but my parents, my family, have emotionally abused my sister for years, and I helped them do it because I was scared. But now they're starting to do the same thing to my daughter, and I can't let that happen." Emma appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. "I can confirm everything she's saying," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Our parents kicked me out on my 16th birthday so Lily could use my bedroom for her baby. They've been manipulating her for years." My aunt joined us too, explaining how she had taken Emma in years ago and how Emma had been in a fragile, broken state when she arrived, barely speaking, deeply depressed. She had helped Emma rebuild her confidence, helped her understand her worth again. The CPS worker listened to all of us, taking notes occasionally. I could tell she was trying to figure out if this was a legitimate case of a mother protecting her child, or if my parents' claims had any merit. It was a tense silence, but we all stood firm, knowing the truth. Finally, after a long pause, Janine spoke. "I understand your concerns," she said, "but I still need to complete my assessment. I'll need to see where your daughter will be sleeping, check that you have adequate food and supplies, and schedule a follow-up visit in a week." Relief washed over me. At least she wasn't taking my daughter away on the spot. We showed her around the house, including the guest room where my daughter was staying. The kitchen was well stocked, and my daughter was happily eating pancakes at the table, blissfully unaware of the chaos around her. Before leaving, Janine handed me her card. "If you need anything or if your situation changes, please call me directly. And just so you know, we take all reports seriously, but we also recognize that sometimes these calls are motivated by factors other than genuine concern for a child's welfare." I thanked her, and as soon as the door closed behind her, I collapsed onto the couch, shaking. I couldn't believe it. My parents weren't going to stop. They were relentless. But this time, I wasn't alone. Emma sat next to me, wrapping her arm around my shoulders. "Then we'll be ready for them," she said softly. "We're not alone anymore, Lily." The tension in the room was palpable. "They couldn't have gotten a court order that fast," Emma whispered, her voice tight with disbelief. She was right. When we called Vanessa in a panic, she confirmed there was no way my parents could have legally obtained emergency custody without a hearing I would have been notified about. The papers James had were completely fabricated. "This is actually good for us," Vanessa said grimly, as the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. "They've committed fraud. We can use this." We filed a police report immediately, trying to cover every possible angle. The officers who came to our aid were sympathetic, but they made it clear that since my daughter was with her father at the time, it wasn't technically a kidnapping. However, they agreed to accompany us to my parents' house to check on my daughter's welfare. The look on my mother's face when she opened the door to find me standing there with 2 police officers was almost worth all the pain, or most. "Officers, what is this about?" my mother asked, her voice dripping with feigned innocence. "We're here about a custody dispute involving a minor child," one officer explained. "We understand your granddaughter is currently at this residence." At first, my mother tried to deny it, her face going pale as she glanced nervously over her shoulder. But then James appeared in the hallway behind her, looking pale and confused. It was clear now he genuinely believed my parents had legal authority. "I didn't know," he kept saying as we left with my daughter in tow. "They showed me court letterhead, a judge's signature. I thought it was real." My heart dropped. The pain of it all hit me again. I couldn't even look at him. All I cared about was getting my daughter home safely, away from the hands of these people who had manipulated and controlled us for so long. My daughter clung to me, confused and scared, asking why Daddy had taken her to Grandma's without me. It broke my heart all over again. That night, after my daughter was finally asleep, I sat down with Emma, my aunt, and Vanessa to figure out our next steps. The police had warned my parents about the fraudulent documents, but Vanessa didn't think they would face any serious legal consequences for it. "They'll claim it was a misunderstanding," she said. "But we can use this incident in family court to show they're willing to go to extreme lengths to interfere with your parenting." We decided to file for a restraining order against my parents and to formally document James's role in taking my daughter. I didn't want to punish him. He had been manipulated too, but I needed legal protection. The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings, court filings, and constant anxiety. My parents tried to contact me multiple times, alternating between threats and pleas for reconciliation. I blocked their numbers and instructed my aunt to do the same. James came by to apologize and to see my daughter. I let him spend time with her because she adored him, but I made it clear our relationship was over. He had chosen my parents over me when it mattered most. There was no coming back from that. One evening, as I was helping my aunt prepare dinner, my phone rang with an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Lily?" It was my dad's voice. I could hear the sincerity in his tone, but it didn't fool me. "Don't hang up, please." I was cold. "What do you want?" "Your mother and I want to invite you and your daughter to dinner just to talk. We miss you," he said, his voice smooth. He was trying to manipulate me again, and I could hear it in his voice, that same tone he used when he wanted something. I almost laughed after everything they'd done. "No way," I said firmly. "We've been thinking about what you said," he continued, as if it all made sense now. "Maybe we were too hard on her. The change of heart felt off, too convenient, too calculated." Emma looked as suspicious as I felt when I told her about the call. "They're planning something," she said. "They never admit they're wrong unless they want something from you." 2 days later, my mom showed up at my aunt's house unannounced. I was alone with my daughter, Emma was at class, and my aunt was at work. At first, I considered not answering the door, but my mom had already seen me through the window. "Lily, please," she called, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. "I just want to talk. I'm alone, I promise." Against my better judgment, I opened the door a crack, keeping the chain on. "You shouldn't be here," I said quietly. "We have a restraining order pending." "It hasn't been granted yet," she pointed out, stepping into my space. "Please, sweetheart, just 5 minutes." I didn't know why I let her in. Maybe part of me still hoped she could change. Maybe I could finally have the mother I needed. It was a mistake. As soon as she stepped inside, she started taking photos of the house with her phone. "What are you doing?" I demanded, panic rising. "Documenting the conditions my granddaughter is living in," she said coolly, dropping the pretense of reconciliation. "The judge will be very interested to see this." The anger boiled over inside me. I grabbed for her phone. "Get out now," I said, barely holding myself together. She pulled back, her face twisted with fury. "You ungrateful little bitch," she hissed. "After everything we've done for you, what have you ever done for me except teach me how to be cruel, how to hurt people I love?" "We made you strong," she said through clenched teeth, "unlike your pathetic sister, and now you're throwing it all away to be weak like her." In that moment, I wanted nothing more than to slap her, but I didn't. Instead, I pulled out my own phone, keeping it out of her reach. "I'm recording this conversation. Please continue explaining how you made me strong by teaching me to abuse my sister." Her eyes widened in shock and she lunged for my phone, but I stepped back, my grip tightening. "Get out of this house right now, or I'm calling the police." For a moment, I thought she might actually attack me, but then she straightened her jacket and turned toward the door. "This isn't over, Lily," she spat. "Your father and I will not let you ruin that child the way you're ruining yourself." After she left, I sank to the floor, trembling. My daughter came over and put her little arms around me, her voice small and worried. "Mommy sad?" she asked, concern etched on her innocent face. I hugged her tightly, whispering, "No, baby, Mommy's okay now." I realized it was true. Every time I stood up to my parents, it got a little easier. Their power over me was breaking, piece by piece. When Emma and my aunt got home, I told them what had happened. Emma was furious, but my aunt looked thoughtful. "You know," she said slowly, "your parents have isolated themselves from most of the family over the years. No one really knows what they're like behind closed doors. Maybe it's time to change that." Her suggestion was simple, but brilliant. A family gathering. My aunt would host a barbecue and invite all the extended family. Cousins, second cousins, my grandparents, everyone. My parents wouldn't dare show their true colors in front of the whole family, and if they declined to come, it would only make them look worse. The invitations went out the next day. My aunt framed it as a celebration of Emma's upcoming graduation and a chance for everyone to meet my daughter. Most of the family accepted immediately. They'd been curious about the sudden rift but hadn't wanted to get involved. My parents tried everything to get the event canceled, calling my aunt and claiming it was inappropriate to celebrate Emma after everything she'd caused, but their efforts backfired spectacularly. By the time the barbecue rolled around, nearly every member of our extended family had confirmed they were coming, including, to my surprise, my parents. The day of the gathering, I was a nervous wreck. Emma helped me get my daughter ready, dressing her in a cute yellow sundress that made her look like a tiny sunbeam. "It's going to be okay," Emma assured me, holding me tight. "We're not alone anymore." 1703. And she was right. The warmth from the family and their genuine interest in me and Emma was overwhelming. We hadn't seen so many of them in years, but they were here now, supporting us. When my parents arrived last, walking into the backyard like they owned the place, the facade they had carefully crafted began to crack. My mom plastered that fake smile across her face, while my dad looked like he was attending a funeral instead of a family barbecue. They played the role of doting grandparents, but I was watching closely. The breaking point came during dinner. Emma, now feeling safe enough to speak her truth, started discussing her studies in psychology, particularly her research into family dynamics and emotional abuse. "What would you know about emotional abuse?" my mom asked with a hollow laugh. "You've been coddled your whole life." The silence that followed was deafening. Emma, steady as ever, met my eyes and nodded. It was time. "Actually," she said calmly, "I spent most of my childhood being told I was worthless, annoying, and unwanted. On my 16th birthday, I was kicked out of the house so Lily could use my bedroom for her baby." You could have heard a pin drop. My grandmother's fork clattered to the table. "Is this true?" she asked, her eyes fixed on my parents. My dad tried to laugh it off, but Emma wasn't done. She laid out everything: the mockery, the cruelty, the manipulation, the fabrications. My parents tried to interrupt, but the family silenced them. And in that moment, as their facade crumbled, I knew we had won. After the barbecue, our relatives made their stance clear. My cousin offered Emma a place to stay, my uncle promised to help with housing, and my grandfather started college funds for my daughter and Emma. My parents left in a storm of slammed doors, and as the dust settled, I felt a weight lift off me. The truth was out. We weren't alone anymore. That night, after my daughter was asleep, Emma and I sat on the porch swing. "Do you think they'll ever change?" Emma asked softly. I sighed. "Maybe someday, but I'm not waiting for it anymore." Emma leaned on my shoulder. "Me neither." The next morning, James reached out, asking to talk. He looked awful when we met. "I'm so sorry," he said. "I should have trusted you. Watching my daughter happily playing, I knew what I had to say. Yes, you should have. But I don't know if we can try again." Sitting there, I realized the cycle of abuse had been broken. Emma and I had escaped, and my daughter would never face it. That was the true victory. The next few weeks were a blur. My uncle helped me find a place, a modest apartment with a yard for my daughter. It was ours, no strings attached. James and I were working on co-parenting, but I wasn't ready to forgive him just yet. About a month after the barbecue, I got a text. "Check your email, urgent." It was a petition for grandparents' rights. My parents were desperate. They wanted to see my daughter, but they were trying to intimidate me into compliance. Vanessa advised me to stay calm and not respond. They filed the petition, and the court date was set. Emma stayed with me the night before, reassuring me, "They don't have the power anymore. We have the truth." The courtroom was tense. My parents, polished as ever, were trying to spin their story, but Vanessa laid out the truth: my parents' manipulative behavior, the fabricated custody papers, the threatening emails. The judge denied their petition and issued a restraining order. I walked out of court feeling a sense of relief I hadn't felt in years. Emma was waiting for me outside, her eyes full of hope. "It's really over?" she asked. "For now, at least," I replied, knowing this was just one battle. The months that followed were the most peaceful I'd had in years. I found a new job, my daughter was thriving, and Emma was flourishing in school. James and I co-parented, but I wasn't looking for reconciliation. 6 months later, I received a check for $10,000, 0 cents from my parents, with no strings attached. I deposited it into my daughter's college fund, not for forgiveness, but for her future. "Do you think we'll ever talk to them again?" Emma asked. "Maybe, but I'm not waiting for it," I said. "We have each other now," I added, as I watched my daughter chase fireflies in the backyard. And for the first time, I felt at peace. The cycle was broken, and we were free. If this story resonated with you, I want to hear from you. Have you ever faced a difficult family situation that changed your life? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. I'd love to connect with all of you who understand what it's like to break free from toxic cycles and find your own path. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Here we share stories of strength, resilience, and empowerment, just like this one. Together, we're building a community that supports each other. Remember, you're not alone. You can break free too. Thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Until next time, take care of yourselves and those you love.